Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video, and today I need to apologize because I lied to y'all about the Minnesota Timberwolves. I was a believer when they made the trade for Rudy Gobert. They're one of my most anticipated teams coming into this season because last year I predicted them to be way better than many people thought. I looked at their roster, I said I like what they've got going on with D'Lo, Anthony Edwards, Cat. I feel like they've got some really underrated role players, and I predicted them to be a play-in team, if not a playoff team. And lo and behold, they end up making the playoffs as the 7 seed, going up against the Grizzlies as the 2 seed, and they were the better team for most of that series against Memphis. However, due to a lack of experience and a lot of mistakes down the stretch, they blew multiple double-digit leads and end up losing the series in 6 games. But it was a good foundation to build off of, so when they traded for Gobert, I fell for it. I said I'm a believer in this team. I predicted them to be my 2 seed in the Western Conference, which is looking like a massive mistake so far, and up to this point, the Timberwolves have been a complete mess. Today, I want to talk about why the Timberwolves have been such a disaster, what's going on, whose fault is it, and ultimately, can they turn things around? Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these uploads, and let's go ahead and get right into it. Basically, nothing has gone right for the Timberwolves to start the year. They had a really easy schedule in their first 7 games, a schedule that consisted of the Thunder twice, the Spurs 3 times, the Lakers, and the Utah Jazz, who given have become a super team, but that's a really solid 7-game schedule to open your season. You should win if you're trying to be a contender like the Timberwolves are, at least 5, maybe even 6 or even 7 of those first 7 games. Instead, they went 4-3, and now, having gone up against some contenders recently like the Milwaukee Bucks and the Phoenix Suns twice, who they lost to in a blowout last night, they have not looked very competitive. Right now, they're sitting at 5-7 on the season, 10th in the Western Conference, and they've lost 5 of their last 6 games. Then you've got some stuff off the court, like Ant saying that the team is soft, Karl-Anthony Towns calling out Edwards eating Popeyes in a post-game press conference. Last night, they're getting blown out to the Suns, and Devin Booker yells at their bench, "We actually play team basketball, move the ball," basically calling out that Minnesota does none of those things. You've also got Anthony Edwards talking about how he doesn't have a lot of room to operate. You've got D'Angelo Russell last night not even coming on the court when he was supposed to check in, so the Timberwolves are playing a 4-on-5 defensive possession. Everything is a complete disaster for them right now. Last season, the Timberwolves were pretty balanced at the 7th offense and the 13th defense, and now they're the 19th offense and the 14th defense. So the defense has kind of stayed around the same, which isn't what you want to see when you traded a bunch of assets for a big defensive guy in Rudy Gobert, and the offense has completely fallen off a cliff. They look like they have no identity, they have no idea what they're doing out there, and basically everything is terrible right now for the Timberwolves. So whose fault is it? Basically, it's almost everyone's. Naturally, most people are probably going to point the finger at Rudy Gobert as the big addition to the team from last year to this season, but he's honestly been fine. He's playing good defense as he always does. They're trying to involve him more offensively, which isn't honestly his game, and I don't think that's really the route to go with him, but he's doing what he can for the team. He's probably most nights been their second best player. Now, him and Cat are a clunky fit. It has not worked great so far. I don't love how it looks. I thought it would be better from the get-go, but once again, having these two guys who aren't used to playing in this type of system together, it's going to take some time for it to gel, and I still do believe it can be at least an alright fit alongside those two. That brings us to Karl-Anthony Towns, who's been the Timberwolves' best player so far this season. Statistically, you might not think so, but on most nights, he is consistent. You know what you're going to get from him. He's averaging his lowest point since 2017, but he's also doing a great job of playmaking. He's getting other guys involved. He's done a great job of passing, way better than I thought he would in this scheme. I really like what I've seen from Cat. He's trying to sacrifice his own numbers to get others involved and make this team work. It's not working so far, but I think it's admirable what he's doing. Although him and Gobert need to do a better job of rebounding because right now they're one of the worst defensive rebounding teams in the league, which you wouldn't expect from a team with 2 bigs like Minnesota. So while Cat and Gobert have been a clunky fit together on the court, it's not really their fault that this team is so bad. They've probably, like I said, been their best 2 players on the season. Really, what it comes down to is the play of their guards. Anthony Edwards and D'Angelo Russell. Anthony Edwards was supposed to take a leap this season. He was most people's pick for either most improved player or just a guy to be a huge breakout candidate. He was supposed to become an all-star, an all-NBA guy, maybe even really capture his full potential. And I was one of those believers in his game. That's part of why I had the Timberwolves jumping so far in the standings. Because even if Cat and Gobert took some time to kind of figure out their pairing, I thought Anthony Edwards was going to take that leap to potential superstardom on this season. do what we saw from him last year, especially in the playoffs where he really ramped things up and became kind of a leader for the team. However, he has absolutely not done that. He looks like the same player, if not worse. Ant is averaging less points than he did last season on inefficient scoring, and he looks really disengaged both offensively and defensively. A lot of possessions. Defensively, there are a lot of times where he'll just jog back, leaving his man open, and offensively, there's a possession I can show you an example of where he just stood still and didn't move on the three-point line with his hands on his hips the entire time. He just kind of checks out at times, which is not what you want to see from a guy who's supposed to, at some point, take the reins as the superstar face of your franchise. He's blamed part of his offensive struggles on how clogged the paint is, mentioning in a post-game interview that he can't really get to the basket and finish or dunk if there isn't a lane available for him. He's only dunked actually once on the entire season against the Knicks in a game where Gobert didn't play, which you would think would open up the paint and allow him to play his full game, right? Except for the fact that in this game, he scored just 16 points on 5 of 14 shooting, 1 of 7 from 3. Even with Gobert not there, he was settling for bad shots, not being as aggressive as he should be. It's just been weird to see from him. And I do think Anthony Edwards will turn things around. I still think he's an incredible player that has a ton of room to grow, but I haven't been encouraged with how disengaged he's looked and how it just feels like he's not interested in this team right now. Then you've got D'Angelo Russell, who, to put it bluntly, has been absolutely horrific. On the season, he's averaging 14 points per game on 38.3% shooting, also shooting 31.5% from 3. He's averaging 5.7 assists, but alongside that, 3.1 turnovers, which is a horrific assist to turnover ratio. He's been a liability defensively. He's doing basically nothing right. And he had a really solid season for the most part last year, except for the fact that when he got to the playoffs, he just stopped playing his game, and it seems like that's continued over. It just feels like he doesn't know his role. He should be in heaven right now, having a great big like Rudy Gobert to go up and catch lobs, having a guy to kick out to in Karl-Anthony Towns, a great slasher in Anthony Edwards. He has the tools to be successful. He just can't do it. He's just not putting it together. It feels like he's going to be an odd man out sooner than later, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's not on the team come the trade deadline. Honestly, I feel like this team could really use a Lonzo Ball type point guard. Not that I think he's available. I don't see Chicago trading him whatsoever, but just a player like him, someone that can play make, can play good defense, knock down threes, doesn't need the ball in his hands too much, because D'Lo right now is doing absolutely none of those things. As for some of their depth guys, Jay McDaniels has been playing pretty solid as a starter. Jalen Noel's looked good off the bench. They've gotten some good minutes from some of the other guys, but they are desperately missing some of the players they traded away. They're missing the three-point shot making of a Malik Beasley, the defensive versatility of a Jared Vanderbilt, the point of attack defense of a Patrick Beverley. All those role players that were huge for their success last season are now on different squads, and they're desperately missing their skill sets. Then we have Chris Finch as the coach, who I really liked last season up until the playoffs where it felt like he made a bunch of mistakes, but it was his first playoff series. I gave him some slack and thought he'll be better this year. I picked him to win Coach of the Year, and he's done a horrible job of putting players in positions to succeed. It feels like players don't know what they're supposed to do or when, offensively or defensively. We talked about the D'Lo possession where he was just sitting out of the court, just not playing when it was 4-on-5. You would expect that Chris Finch would notice that and let him know to run in. It's just been a complete disaster. Guys don't seem to know what their role is on the team, and when you have a team with so many new moving pieces, that is critically important for a coach to do. They look like a mess offensively, and defensively, they just make so many mistakes, which you wouldn't expect. Against the Phoenix Suns last night, they ran a zone for a lot of the game, which got completely ripped apart. It was not working whatsoever, but they stuck with it, and even though it looked like the Timberwolves guys out there had absolutely no clue what they were supposed to do in this zone. It was one of the weirdest looking defenses I've ever seen, and he did nothing to fix it. His adjustments haven't been good, his lineups have been weird, the players that he pairs together haven't made sense. It just looks like he's completely lost out there, and Timberwolves fans are calling for his job every single day on my timeline, which is a far cry from what they said about him last season. So basically, to recap, everything is on fire in Minnesota. I thought this was going to be one of their most successful seasons of all time, but so far it's been a complete disaster. And once again, I want to reiterate, it is very early in the season. There is plenty of time for them to turn this thing around, but I haven't seen much that I've been encouraged by. I think they either need some moves or firing a coach, or maybe Rudy Gobert just wasn't the trade to make. They should have maybe traded for a better point guard, trading D'Lo and some of those assets to upgrade at that position, give them a really solid playmaker. Who knows? But right now, the Timberwolves are stuck in this situation, and they've got to find a way to make it work. Whether that's trading D'Lo, getting a better point guard, trying to bring in some more depth, firing Chris Finch, something needs to change. And if it doesn't, the Timberwolves might just have made one of the worst moves in recent history. I appreciate y'all watching. Go ahead and comment down below letting me know what you think about the Minnesota Timberwolves. Can they turn this season around, or are they doomed? Also, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos. I'll see y'all later. Real one, say it back.